Hi. I am so happy to be talking to you right now.
Likewise. I love everything that you do.
Well, I feel very lucky I met you a few weeks ago at the Capitol.
hmm
I came by the protest, and then as I was walking to my car, I saw you talking to a police officer with your friends
hmm
in front of
Yeah.
the church, in front of the Catholic church there.
hmm
And I was very impressed with you and what you were saying. And then I found out you told me you're organizing a protest.
hmm
And so tell me what happened since then. Tell me what took you to that protest, and then
hmm
the one that you organized.
hmm
So yeah, tell me about you. I have so many questions.
So it actually started, me and my friends, we saw what was going on in DC, and I really wanted to go. My parents were like, absolutely no way, COVID and it's dangerous. And me and my friends, we just could not stay still. Like, we had to do something. And then we saw the protests in Manassas, and that was crazy. And that just took a whole different direction. And then that night that it went kind of crazy, me and my friends, we just decided that we were going to go to DC. And we went and we saw everything that was going on, and it was completely crazy. I think we went to like 3 different protests in one day. And when we got back, I was like, guys, Loudoun County, which is a part of Nova for anybody who doesn't know, it's so quiet. Like, it's literally like radio silence. And I think
Okay,
that's,
wait, back up.
mhm,
People
okay.
may not know Nova, Northern Virginia, like
Oh
right
yeah,
outside DC.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
Uh-huh.
using the lingo. um,
Uh-huh.
so it was radio silent, and I think that's definitely because it is a predominantly white area, and it's very affluent. Um, and so people think that it just doesn't touch them. And so when we came back, I was like, guys, we need to have one. Like, we have to have one. And we decided to plan it like 5 days out. Um, and in the meantime, while we were planning, on Wednesday, we saw, sorry, I touched my mic. We went to a Freedom Fighters DC protest, and that's where we met you. And we were talking with the priest in front of the church and the police officer. And it was so spontaneous how we met you. But everything just kind of flew by. Like, we were asking for donations, and people were like, before we even asked for donations, people were asking if they could donate, like money, masks, water, tents, to set up tables, snacks, anything and everything that we could have needed, first aid. Um, and it just kind of like went so crazy. We talked with the police department trying to get a permit. We had the donations. We picked a place. I picked where we were gonna march, and it just kind of just went like so fast. And it ended up, we thought everybody would ask us like, how many people are gonna come? And I was like, no less than 100, because we have 200 Twitter followers, and no more than 300. But it ended up being 1,600 people that came out and supported us.
Wow.
Right?
Oh
Crazy.
my God.
In Fairfax, Virginia. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. And I had my dad speak because he was a friend of George Floyd when he was in college. They went to college together. Um, and it really just started, I think it kind of went from like, okay, everybody's silent here, but then it was also like, that's my dad's friend. I know my dad, he like heals himself through talking, like he's a talker. So I want to give him a space so he can tell Floyd's story. That's what he calls him. He calls him Big Floyd, George Floyd. So he
Mhm.
can tell his story, and so people could actually hear like Black voices. Because I feel like a lot of times people are just screaming into the void, and then you have allies kind of screaming, but it's another thing to actually like hear it come from the horse's mouth. Not calling us horses, but like, like from the horse's mouth. So I just wanted to provide that space, and it went off, and it was so good. And yeah, it was so good.
Wow. And what was it like when your dad spoke? Because I really wanted to try to make it, but I couldn't because I
hmm
had to go to another protest in
hmm
on Capitol Hill. But what was it like when your dad spoke? I hope you have video of that.
Oh, I think so. I think my mom did. So like the whole, because we had 5 days to plan it. So like I told them on like the fourth day, like the day before it actually went down. So like um I asked him, and I was like, hey, my friend is having a protest. Do you want to say something? And he would never tell me what he was going to say. I was like, do you want me to like help you write things out? Do you want me? And he was like, no, I got it. And I didn't hear anything that he said until we got there. And he just let it out. Like, he's from the South, Florida, if you consider that the South. And it's
Oh
very,
yeah.
yeah, right? It's very, very conservative, like gun-toting, like it's just a lot. And so he told me and all of us about this story of when he was a kid and he was 8 years old and he was walking home from church, and him and his family went to a predominantly white church, and they actually got kicked out. And he was walking home and a white man came up and spit in his face. Like, he was doing nothing. He was 8 years old, walking to his home from church, like literally the most saintest thing you could possibly be doing. And the only thing he did was be Black. And he told everybody that story, and he was upset and emotional, but not because it's really interesting because he's not angry, like in a sense of where like, I hate everybody that did me wrong, but he's angry that he's a very forgiving guy. So it just seemed like a lot of pain, like not like just rage, but like pain. Like, I just want people to know that this is what people go through and we can make it better. And it was really powerful. It was quiet. And he talked about Floyd, and he talked about how such a gentle giant he was, and how George Floyd actually grew up in Houston in the Third Ward, which is a very poverty-stricken place, and he wanted nothing but to do the right thing all the time. Like, he just wanted to live right, go to college, do his work, make a good life for himself. That's why he moved to Minnesota, to make a better life for him and his wife and his kid, or his fiance and his kid. And how, like, even though you play by the book, sometimes you still end up dead as a Black person in America. So it was very sobering moment at the march, and he went last. And I think that really like kind of solidified like the message, like why we are here. Yeah.
Wow. And what did your dad say afterwards? Did he feel good about the march and what he said?
So both my parents, they were very like just taken aback because they didn't know that me and my other friend had planned this. Like, all the people that had shown up, it was crazy. And literally like this fueled them, because before they were like, no protest, you're gonna get sick. And now they want to help me organize another protest in Northern Virginia again. I know, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know. That was a lot of work, guys. And so this like really fueled him, and he feels like, he actually said this the other day, he feels like he can like grieve kind of, because he's like, he did his part, and like he can, the mission isn't done, but this part he can kind of like, move forward with that. So that's how he was feeling.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. I'm so glad you did that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me more about you. You're a student at GMU?
So I go to George Mason University, and I am going to be a junior this fall. I'm a theater student and a film student. What else about me? It's so weird talking about myself. I feel like I'm nothing special. I just threw a protest. But I did grow up in the South, so I did see a lot of injustices there, like a lot. And what else? So I feel like I've like been in both worlds. So like I live in Northern Virginia, which is like a very affluent place, but then I've also lived in central conservative Florida that's very poverty stricken. And so I kind of like carry that with me all the time. And I'm like, I just kind of see things differently than people who've like stayed in like just Northern Virginia, or just the South. That's a little bit of, yeah.
Tell me, because I also grew up in the South. I actually grew up in Houston.
Hey.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of time in the South, like documenting it, having conversations with people. I would love to get your thoughts on what people should know about the South based on your experience.
Honestly, what I would say, something that I've been like, whenever the news is on and they're talking about like even COVID and voting, things like that, the South is not something to be played with. Like, a lot of people think like, oh, America, we're so like, we're moving forward. Yes, we are. But the South still they still hold a lot of their views. And you think like, oh, it's not that bad. And then when you get there, it's like 50s. Like, I don't know how it was in Houston, but if there were some pockets in Houston, but it's just, the South is it's literally where time stands still. And that's why we need people to get out, and we need people to protest in cities. We need people to vote. We need people to yell, let their voices be heard, because the South is real. It's large. People there 100%, 1,000% believe what they're saying. They believe that minorities are inferior. They don't care. They tear down laws. They are serious about it. And we just have to, especially for like the election, we just have to make sure that we know that. Mm-hmm. Like, we can't always trust that the North is going to bring us through. The North, I feel like I'm in the Civil War. No, but that other areas are going to kind of like bring us through.
Right. Well, okay, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You have this interesting background, and you just organized the protest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was probably very meaningful to a lot of people, not just, your father and your few friends, but it probably moved a lot of people, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the year 2020. We have a big election. We have so much going on, right? I am just wondering how you would describe just like how you're feeling about this whole thing, this whole situation you're in. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling optimistic, inspired? Like, if you could just kind of like describe just kind of your attitude or outlook right now.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe it?
It's kind of like a whole big hodgepodge of things, because I feel like we're making strides in the right direction. Like, people are protesting, people are like, and like the media is giving us a platform to actually say these things for once in like forever. I think since like 68, people are interested in what Black people have to say, like actually have to say. So in that aspect, I'm like, wow, I feel like it's going to be different. Like, I feel like this is going to be like when I have kids, like it's going to be, like this is the change. This is the change that we're seeking for everybody, not just Black people, but all people of color, all minorities. But then on the other hand, like, again, the South, like, I know what I'm dealing with. I know what I grew up with. And it's so disheartening, because like, I almost don't want to give myself hope, if that makes sense, because like, I know there's going to be pushback. And so I have to like kind of like mentally prepare myself for that.
Oh,
right. Wow. And and you think like it's the simplest thing, like, let minorities just not be punished just for simply being a minority, but people just don't care. So I feel like in that aspect, but then again, like people like you that are giving like Black voices and voices and minority voices like a platform to speak, like I'm like, yes, like yes. But then on the other hand, so it's like, it's kind of all of it. And it's really weird, because like sometimes, like especially last week, like I'll find myself like spontaneously just like getting sad, like just crying, because like I'm seeing everything, especially now in the age of social media. Like, literally you'll see somebody like at a protest and like a cop will kneel, but then you'll see somebody like police brutality, like all in the same frame. So it's a lot to take in.
So how do you process all of it? Like, do you talk to your friends? You talk to your parents? Like, how do you, because there's so much, it's hard to process, right?
It is. Yeah.
So how do you do that? What do you do?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I know it's so hard. I'm trying to like adopt hobbies and stuff away, because like I was trying to tell my friend, like my other friend, she's not Black, but she's Egyptian, so she's a minority, so she, and I was like, she can like go hang out with her friends and kind of just, but that's hard because I will always be Black. Like, I'll always go out into the store, and literally in Walmart the other day, I had somebody like come up and like say that I stole something. Like, this is like constant. Like, it's just, I just can't really turn that part off. And so what I try to do to distress is basically just get hobbies. I started sewing. I was like, I can't go on Twitter anymore. I just can't. It's a media overload. And so that's what I do. Mm-hmm.
Sewing.
I know.
I like this. I like this. No, it's beautiful. I love it. I think it's perfect. I've been cooking a lot more.
Hey.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with like the media, like the overload and like kind of everything just going on, even COVID and like?
That's a good question. I guess I have focused a lot on the basics, like figuring out how to be healthy, how to be more loving, how to be more sane, like just kind of just really things just seem very deconstructed. Like I can understand much better what it means to just want to be sane, because I feel like sometimes I'm gonna lose my mind, right?
Yeah.
So and it's interesting when you're under this kind of stress and crisis, like things become clearer sometimes, or you realize like who you really care about, or people who really care about you. So there's a certain kind of clarity that comes with crises that's been very interesting. I personally have felt very uplifted by seeing so many young, diverse people show up to protest.
How so?
I mean, just because I go to a lot of protests and often to document, and I feel like I see the same people. And it's often like not that diverse, right? But the protests around George Floyd I've been to too have been extremely diverse, like people of all ages and all colors. And that just makes me feel like this is a sign of something big,
right?
Yeah. No, like to me, right there, it's already like we have achieved something, because it's hard to get all these people out under these circumstances, facing danger
in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, under threat of being physically brutalized, like to have so many people show up. I mean, that says something, that this is a different kind of protest. So that has really kind of restored some faith in our democracy and in people, you know. But I'm extremely worried about the election.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, as you know, every election, people wonder, like, how do we get young people engaged? How do we get young people to come vote? And I wanted to ask you if you had thoughts about that. Like, well, how do we do this? How do we get more people to vote? Your friends, your fellow students, like, how do we do this?
It's so weird. I don't know what shifted. But it's just, I think Donald Trump is what shifted, because Donald Trump, 2016, so I was a junior in high school, and now I'm a junior in college coming up this year. So I've been in high school and college while he was in office. And it's just, it feels almost like there's like something in the air. Like we are, I hate this word to use it loosely, but we're woker. I know. We're more aware of what's going on. Like I don't know what's happening, but we're ready. Like I honestly think this young generation, we're the ones leading the protests. We're the ones starting the GoFundMes, the petitions. We're the ones writing in, sorry, I keep hitting this. We're the ones writing in to our officials, trying to get change done. I think we're ready. And I don't know, maybe it was Trump, maybe it was something in the water. But I and that's all I can say, because it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. But I think, especially with everything going on, so COVID, so like the US's lack of preparedness for that, George Floyd and all of the Black Lives Matter situation that's going on, Donald Trump in office, Bernie, all of it. It's just kind of making everybody a little antsy and like, what's happening next? And I think, I keep saying this, but I think we're ready. I don't know what's happened. And maybe I'm putting too much faith in the younger generation, myself and the younger generation. But when I talk to my classmates and my friends, they know what's up and they know what's going on, and that
So,
might.
how did you become this woke? Like, what happened to you? Like, how did your parents teach you to be like this, or
Yeah.
how did you get like this?
So my dad, he was a poli-sci major, so that might be that might be one of the reasons. But my parents, they always taught me, especially me and my brothers and sisters, like, you're Black, like, you have to know what's going on. You have to know who's campaigning for your interests. You just have to, that's something that you cannot afford to just sleep on. And luckily I live in an area that supports those ideas and supports people like me. So I think it's like all of that, like, just kind of together. And also social media is a beast. It's crazy. Like, literally everything's happening all at once. There's not a bill, not something that gets signed that Twitter does not know about, and it will go viral. So I think that's another reason.
I mean, with the thing that worries me is I feel like all of us, not just young people, all of us are spending so much time on social media that I just wonder if it's really helping us win elections, or we're just spending a lot of time entertaining ourselves and distracting ourselves. We're creating an illusion of engagement, but it's not really helping us build power. Because voting is supposed to help us build power. But on social media, if you're ranting about Trump every day, does that really help us build power? Is it going to help us win in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, where we have to win in order to remove Trump? And so I guess that's one of the concerns I have, is I would like for us to figure out how to be focused in a more tactical way, so that we make sure we win those battleground states and we don't repeat what happened in 2016, where Hillary wins the majority votes, the popular vote, but Trump wins the electoral college votes, and then we're completely screwed. So you see what I mean? Like, I just feel there's a kind of a procedural part of this that we have to pay attention to in order to really win.
I feel like it's kind of like, I agree totally with what you're saying. I think, so basically, I think with social media, you have to kind of like, it's going to sound, you have to give people a task. So it has to kind of be like a just direct task. So like, what day was it? Oh, it was on Juneteenth. I think he moved it to the 20th. Donald Trump had the rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And a lot of people didn't show up because why? Because Gen Zers went to TikTok and they said, hey, he's having a rally, reserve these tickets. Everybody gets 2 tickets, and we're going to make sure nobody shows up. And only 6,000 people showed up. And I forget how many seats were left empty, but it was so many. And me, my friends, my sister, we all did it. And it was a task. It was right in front of us. Go reserve the tickets, make sure that Trump doesn't speak to it, like, doesn't get his agenda out or whatever. I think it's already out, but so he doesn't, desecrate this holiday, even though he moved it. And so we did that, and we did it, and only 6,000 people got in. And
so it was you, Jordyn.
Yeah, but then, like, on the other hand, like, that happens, and that's amazing, and you watch it on the news and it's like, yes, I did this, and it was on TikTok and we did it. But then on the other hand, like, when elections happen and everybody's like, hey, go vote, everybody's like, oh yeah, sure, but nobody votes. So it's kind of like, how do we
tell me, let's stay on this. How do we avoid that problem, Jordyn?
I know I think it's so hard, because I promise you, if elections were like tomorrow, the turnout would be astronomical. But it's all the way in November, and we don't know what's going to happen in November. And it's so, because I love my generation, but we are very we have no attention span. It's really bad. I think because everything's instant. So it's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be hard trying to keep our attention. I think we could do it. I think there's going to be a few drop offs, but if like, it's going to be so, I'm speechless. I don't know how. We have such a low attention span, but when it's right in front of us, we get it done. Like the protest, like the Tulsa rally, like we get it done. So I think we just have to kind of find like a,
Right.
mm-hmm.
Let me ask you something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like an old person, but okay. I am a little mystified by TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I have been on it. I even made a couple of videos, but I don't really understand how it's used to get people to do things. Is it just that people just make videos and say do a call to action, or like how does it spread so quickly?
I think honestly it's TikTok's algorithm, because I made a cheesy video, just kind of off the subject, but it matters. I made a cheesy video thinking nobody would see it, and I got like 500 views, and I was like, that's weird. So I think that's the algorithm paired with our like generation's comedy, because I forget which original video said to go do that, like to go reserve the tickets. I think it was funny. I think somebody was like dancing with music, but then they had the link in their description box.
Okay.
So it's like, it's the algorithm, it's the easiness of it. It's just a tip tap away. You can do it. So I think it's all of that. And I think people are a little mystified by social media a little bit, but I think it could be a tool to use
well, okay. So going back to the instant gratification and the low attention span problem. Okay, so can we take advantage of this moment to get a bunch of young people to register to vote?
Yeah. So
can we do that? Who can create that TikTok video that gets everyone to register to vote? I mean, I'm being completely serious.
No, yeah, I know, because
how do we do this?
It's an issue, especially with this graduating class. Like we have a class coming right out, so we need to be like, so I think you could like TikTok it up, have the description, because a lot of people don't know this. I believe you can register vote online. I think that's what I did in high school.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, no, you can do it on my website actually.
Yeah.
Countmeintowin.org. There's a voter registration form you can fill out.
Yeah, so it's so easy. Literally, I think if we utilize the internet, the power, because we're always on there, and we got that done, like they did the Tulsa rally, I think we could do it. Yeah, it's literally just right there. It's so easy. Right. There's literally no reason not to. I think just lack of education. I think people think like, oh, it's a national election. It doesn't really have anything to do with us.
So Jordyn, can you do this with me? I think you're fantastic, by the way.
You too.
I mean, I would love to work with you on trying to get young people to vote. Like we could create TikTok videos. We could create a fun registration page. Like we could put cute animals pictures on it, whatever it takes. I'm being totally serious.
No, yeah.
The fact that people need entertainment, okay, fine. We'll like figure out how to entertain people, but we've got to get people to register to vote. Because by the time we get to door knocking for a candidate,
it's kind of
too late.
Yeah, people are knowing who they're voting for.
Yeah, or they just the voter registration deadline has passed. Or they don't know if they have the right address on their form. Anyway, it just like it becomes like a logistical mess. So we got to do it now. We got to get people to register to vote now. So if I would like, you don't have to do this at this moment, but like, can we go on the phone with some of your friends to just like brainstorm ideas for how to register people to vote?
Yeah, so one of my family's ideas, like this isn't a plug or anything, but we wanted to have another protest, and we wanted to we were going to pair with the GMU Dems, even though you don't have to register Democrat or anything, and we were going to actually have they're going to have their own booth to get, because there's a lot of young people coming out to the protest, to get people who aren't registered. So that's another way. Like these protests need to have like a way. They need to like they need to be like, hey, when they're on the mic, because they're always like, go vote. But how do you do that? You need to tell people how to do it. And that's kind of sad that you kind of like have to like kind of like shifts our generation's head over, but you really have to. And again, like with TikTok, I'd love to work with you. It's so sad that a lot of my sister, she's not registered to vote and she's 20. And I'm like, girl, come on. But she's not the only one. I know.
Wait, you have a sister who's 20? Well, you're 20. Is that a twin? Do you have a twin?
Oh, she just turned 21. Sorry.
Oh, okay. She's older. She's older.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay. We can do this. Let's just assume we can do this, okay? Because I have so many people who are naysayers saying, oh, they're never going to vote. Let's assume we can figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And just a matter of how we figure it out. But I would like to just get a group of us to just have a brainstorm session, right? And then just commit to just trying some of these things. You know, whether it is going with clipboards to protests or whatever, or we do a bunch of TikTok videos. I think we should just go ahead and just try doing these things and see if we could get make voting go viral. Can we get
I know, make voting go viral. I love that. I'd love to be on your team. I'd love to it's a mission.
It is. Another thing is, to me, like, there's no real difference between protesting and voting, because often I protest by voting. It is an act of protest. You know, I don't like something, I'm going to protest the hell out of Trump by voting for Biden.
So
you can take the same kind of anger and indignation and energy and then and just vote.
Yeah, I think so. I think people, it's kind of sounds sad, I think people like how protesting looks a little bit, and it's kind of cathartic. It's like, let's go yell into the void and let's go have our signs. Not saying that it doesn't do anything, because it absolutely does. But it's a lot more like in your face, and it's a bit more, I don't want to use entertaining, but it's like you're doing a lot more than just going into a booth and like signing. But we need to let people know that like voting is actually a lot more effective.
Well, you know what? How about this? Okay, another idea. Sorry, I'm obsessed.
No, you're fine.
just kicking around ideas with you, but I feel like we need to make voting more social. So let's say that we organize an after party. So anybody who votes comes to the after party.
Yeah.
We just make it fun. So whatever would be considered fun for your friends and people in your age group, we can make it a real party.
Yeah, we need to incentivize voting, because it's very, very important. We really do.
I'm not kidding you. I'd love to organize like an after party with great. We could even do it like a virtually, like we have great musicians, right?
I think that's like, I think what you're thinking of is an excellent idea, and I think that, sorry, my dog, oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
And
I don't hear
okay,
the dog.
Just making sure. And I think that's up to kind of like how the protests are kind of like grassroots, and it's just like people like me, like young people. I think we need to take this on. Like voting is our next protest, like what you said. Like we need to get together, make it happen, make people want to come out to support, make it in your face, like what by any means necessary. And I think TikTok and social media and Twitter can help us do that. But I really like your idea, and I'd really love to work with you. I keep saying that, but I really would. It's such a good idea.
I'm so excited. Okay, so Jordyn, we're gonna do this. We're gonna organize an after party.
Let's do it.
We're gonna
voting after party.
Yeah, no, really, I think we should, and just get people to know, like, okay, in order to get in, even though it's gonna be virtual, but in order to get into the party,
we need to see that sticker. We need to see.
Let's see some receipts. But okay, But I mean, honestly, we can make it a very social, festive thing, right? I also think that registering to vote can be almost like a rite of passage. You know, most people don't get parties like bar mitzvah or bar mitzvah that you have in, say, the Jewish tradition, or quinceanera or something like that, right? We don't get those kinds of like rite of passage parties, but we can turn it into one. We can make it like a civic bar mitzvah, you know, where if you register to vote, the whole community will celebrate.
Yeah, yes, yes. I think it really needs to happen because a lot of, oh gosh, she's really sorry. Because I don't think people stress it enough. We just don't stress voting enough. Like when you turn 18, this needs to happen. Like, yes, you're 18, you can vote now. Like I remember when I was a kid growing up, it's like, I want to vote, and we couldn't vote. And it was like a big thing. But I feel like as I got older, it kind of just went away and like nobody really cared.
Okay, so we're gonna do this. Okay, we're gonna do this. All right, so we should totally do this. We should have like a Zoom party, right, for people to celebrate people who are either registering to vote, and if they're not registered to vote, we're going to celebrate the fact that they're going to be very involved in the election.
Yes, 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 we really do. I remember when I was 16, I really wanted, even though I couldn't vote, I really wanted to go out canvassing because it was just a passion of mine. I think we can have people do that. Like be involved. Even though you can't vote, your vote doesn't get counted, just know that this still affects you and that you can still like do your part. I really think we should incentivize this, and I think it could be awesome.
Yeah, I think being social is really key to getting people engaged, because I think people think voting is sort of an isolated experience that you have as an individual, and it's a duty and blah blah blah. But really, why does it have to be that way? Why can't it be a very fun, festive, social experience?
Yeah, yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. So let's try to figure out how to make that work and make it go viral on TikTok and wherever else. I would TikTok if I have to.
You'll get addicted in no time. Don't worry.
Oh God. That scares me a lot. I have an addictive personality. So, but the big question that I wanted to ask you was like, what do young people want right now? Like, what can we offer them that would make young people go, yes, this is relevant for me. This is going to help me. What do they want?
I think we really so I keep getting this question. I feel like we just want to be listened to. A lot of people think that we don't know what we're talking about. And like when we get older, we'll see. That's literally all I've heard all my life, all the time. And that's what we've all heard. Like you'll see, like things change. And like, yeah, things do change, but like listen to us. Like we've organized protests. We know what we're about. We know we don't stand for this anymore. And there's this quote, and it's like, we're not our ancestors because we're not doing this anymore. That's done. Like, my ancestors have fought so I could get here, but yet here is still not good enough. And I think people like non-minorities, like even like, okay, I have friends that are minorities. I know that they deserve respect. I know that them driving home is dangerous for them. That's not okay. And so what do young people want? What can you guys do? I think just let us have a space, like our space, and listen. I think that's the most important thing. And I really do applaud the media at this time for listening, for inviting us on, for just actually wanting to hear what we have to say, and not just, we're 19, we don't really know the world yet, because a lot of people say that. And then that's why I think a lot of the times we don't go vote, because it's like, oh, the older generation, they'll do it for us. Like we know what we want, and they'll, so I think that's where we kind of get lost.
So you want to be heard, you want to be treated with respect, you want to make sure that your voice matters and your vote is counted and all that. Okay, I think we can do that. I don't know why there is such a generational disconnect often. But yeah, no, I understand the sense of being condescended to and patronized, by older people. I definitely have seen it for myself. I try to avoid doing it. I hope I don't do it.
Not at all.
Yeah, but I think it's extremely important to figure out how to get young people's voices heard and respected, and to create like an audience for people like you. I mean, you're so impressive. And I mean, one of the things I want to also say is I meet people all the time. I exchange information. They're supposed to send me stuff or whatever. And most of the time, they never follow through. And you did. Like, you texted me information about the protests, even though I couldn't end up going. But it was great. Like, you really are, you're on top of it. And I think that's a very important sign for me that you're like a serious organizer.
Oh,
I mean, that's what an organizer does. They follow up, and they make sure that they take advantage of any opportunity to advance their cause. So anyway, I just wanted to applaud you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I am also just amazed that you're smiling and laughing, and you're not depressed.
Right.
And feeling defeated, because honestly, if I were your age, I would feel depressed. And I'm seeing so many stories of young people who are depressed or even committing suicide or getting addicted to drugs. Yeah, I mean, the suicide part is just really alarming, because I'm just seeing more and more notices of people saying their nephew just committed suicide, or my son. I mean,
around this time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the quarantine and just the sense of hopelessness out there. But like, obviously you are not feeling that. Maybe every once in a while you feel it, but like you don't seem that way to me.
I think because like being an organizer, it's given me something to kind of fight for. Whereas like before I started going to protests, like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't to the point where I was suicidal, but I definitely felt defeated. Like, my dad's friend had just died. This is common. I don't think anything's gonna get done. And here I am just sitting and just watching TV. Like, it's so I definitely say, for anybody feeling like that, like, get out, get involved. Like, we need you. Like, literally in any way. You don't have to protest. You don't have to organize. Donate. Create a petition. Make a page. Like, create spaces so people can talk. Like, and it's sad that people don't take advantage of like things that are right at their fingertips. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, I was getting a little depressed watching news stories. I think just being addicted to news is really bad for you, and I admit that I have this problem. But every time I go out and talk to people, I go to a protest or I just have conversations like this, I always feel better. Because the way things get represented in the news is so different from reality.
Yes.
And this isn't to just diss on journalists or people who create media, and I am also a media creator, but it just is that there's always going to be some sort of an angle or a spin. But when you actually spend time with people and you talk to people, I mean, you get to experience humanity that can't be labeled as Democratic or Republican or good or bad. It's just you're just experiencing a person, a whole person. And to me, that's always like makes me feel more alive and more engaged than if I just like think I'm just talking to another Republican or another Democrat or Bernie person or whatever. I think that we just need to like recognize each other's humanity more.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. Like, it's so it's crazy because like when I was watching the protests versus like being in them, the protests just looked so chaotic. It looked like a whole like an angry mob with the pitchforks and like people burning stuff up. Not saying that things weren't getting burnt up, but what I am saying is that it's not that it's definitely not what the news paints it out to be. It's
Mm,
peaceful sometimes it's not, but that's like in a different but most of the time it's peaceful. People are there with an objective. We're here and we want this. The chants are saying, what do we want? Justice. What do we want it now? And they're saying their names and everything. But when the media kind of, it is from an angle. And like as a film student, I'm not gonna, I love the media, I want a job. But it's definitely like it's kind of in like hearing like going from a protest and then hearing what my parents are saying about a protest, I'm like, I know that's not exactly true.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also, what I find, and this is why I've been to so many protests, is that people, when you're marching with people, even if you don't say anything to the person next to you, you feel a sense of connection to the person next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so profound because most of the time we feel alone, or we feel like we don't know who we can trust or who to talk to. There's a sense of like isolation and loneliness most of the time. Well, I'm speaking for myself. But
no, yeah.
yeah, but at a protest often I'm like, yes, this person, I feel connected to this person, and it's just like a beautiful experience to me. And so, I mean, not all protests, some protests are just a little bit too angry for me or too violent for me, but most of the time it's not like that. People are peaceful, and there's a very loving energy.
Yeah. What you just said, it brings me back to this story about, I think it was like a few weeks back, I think it was in the beginning of June, I forgot where it was, maybe DC, but there was like I think it was in DC, there was a protest, and then they had the curfew, and I think the curfew was at, I forgot what time, maybe 7, and then there were like 70 protesters who were kind of locked in the city, and they were starting to throw people in jail because, they hate protesters. And this one man, he literally was like, come on, guys, like just cram in my apartment, cram in my little, yeah. And so it's like, even though he did not know these people, you just feel like so connected. And I remember when I was there at the protest, and me and my friends, we were kind of joking, and because we were like, in the beginning when our friend told us that story in the car, I was like, I'm not letting nobody in my house, like that's 70 people, wow, something's gonna come up missing. But like after we were done, we were joking, we were like, I give my life for those people, I love those people. Like you just feel like what you said, it's like even if like somebody's a conservative or like it doesn't matter at that point, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we
people,
need
and we
more.
all have the same cause.
Yeah, I think we're craving those kinds of civic experiences where we feel connected to a community, not just having, it's different from just having your friends or your family, but the sense of belonging to a community is so distinct and powerful.
Yeah.
And I think we crave that experience. We want to feel connected to a community. And so that's been one of my kind of personal journeys, is like I feel like I am looking for that community that makes me feel more complete, more whole, And
do you know if oh yeah,
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna ask, do you know if like us as like a society, do you know if we're able to obtain that like outside of protests? Do you know like
Absolutely.
what? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you asked me this question.
Yeah.
You're asking me really good questions. Yes, this is an interesting thing, is when there is a crisis, like the pandemic. There were, at the beginning of the pandemic, do you remember just kind of how social media was flooded with people trying to help people?
Yeah.
And it's still going on. People offering to help total strangers buy groceries or whatever. So when there's a crisis, often this feeling is elicited where you feel connected to everybody going through that crisis. So another thing that happened,
Mhm.
you weren't born then, but like 9/11, when 9/11 happened, there was that feeling of
Mhm.
people feeling like we're all going through this.
Mhm.
So it didn't matter what party you belonged to or what race you were, there was a
Mhm.
sense of connection among the people going through that crisis.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, this also happens during natural disasters and wars, just experiences that um, affect large numbers of people at the same time.
Mhm.
So it happens in those moments. Like what sometimes it's when something incredible happens, like we are able to land a person on the moon, or we elected the first black president, you know,
Mhm.
or we won gold medals in the Olympics, or I mean, what like there's a certain sense of like jubilation that comes with these achievements that everyone feels at the same time. So
Mhm.
there are these experiences that can help us feel connected. Another thing that happens is I've been into a lot of small towns, rural communities where everyone knows everybody. I don't know if you've ever lived in a town like that. People know each
Yes.
other.
Down in
And
Florida, yeah.
yeah, and if somebody gets sick, people bring over food, or they, ask if
Mhm.
they need help.
Yeah.
So there are just deep, deep connections that can last over generations, for better or for
Mhm.
worse. Sometimes grudges are held over generations too, but
Yeah.
often these ties are so profound, and so in some ways, like, they can really be as powerful as like a family connection, like someone who is in your community,
Mhm.
someone who's your neighbor. So I think there are just different ways we can create like that sense of community. But do you know Reverend Barber, William Barber? He's leading the Poor People's Campaign.
I think so. That
Yeah.
sounds very familiar.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can look him up, but he's somebody
Mhm.
I documented for a couple of years. But what Reverend Barber is trying to do with his movement is to create that sense of community that Dr. King called the beloved community. The kind
Mhm.
of love you have for a community, that he used the Greek word agape. So it's really that sense of belonging that you can create in a movement where people
Mhm.
make sacrifices, they get arrested together, they protest together, they scream together, they organize together, they support each
Yeah.
other through all the ups and downs of a movement.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
that right there, to
Mhm.
me, is like some of the most powerful civic experiences you can have, is when
Mhm.
people are committed to a cause and they are trusting in each other, sometimes
Mhm.
with their lives. Like sometimes your lives are on the line, so you have to trust people
Yeah.
with your lives. And so that's the stuff of like incredibly powerful civic experiences. But
Mhm.
so like what you're doing, like you may not know it, but you're giving people that experience that we're talking about. So at the
Oh.
protest that you organize,
Mhm.
and even
Mhm.
people who may not have been there but heard about it, like you're creating like reverberations
Mhm.
that can give people the feeling that they're part of a community.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, it does. Wow. I
Yeah.
never even thought of it like that. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of the examples that you were listing, they make sense, and they're kinda separate in my head, but I never really. Mhm.
Yeah. So the term organizer, like you were saying, organizer, like to me, like that description is the most important description. That's the most important job in the world, is to be an organizer, because
Wow.
what you're organizing is exactly that sense of community that we crave, that sense of belonging
Mhm.
that we crave.
Wow. Wow. I never even thought of that. Like, when I was thinking about the protest, I was like, "Oh, let's just," like, when you go to a protest, you're like, "I'm angry. Let's go support the cause." But when you get there, or when I'm having it, Like it's so, wow, that's so, I'm gonna go cry.
Yeah, but what you probably felt at some point at the protest, and ask your dad about this too, because because it was such an emotional experience for him. But what you feel when you feel connected to this large group is very similar to love. It's that feeling of love, that sense of connection. And this is just as basic and profound as it gets, fundamental as it gets, is that experience. Like the more we can produce that experience, the better the world will be, the less suffering there will be, more progress there will be. So like that's why organizing is, to me, the most important job in the world.
Gotcha. Yeah, that does. Yeah. I think going back to what you said about voting, if we can kind of like take that and we can kind of, because I think like protesters, not really any incentive to protesting besides that feeling, like being a part of something. So if you were to take that feeling and you were to kind of have that as the incentive for voting, I really feel like you could get things done.
Yes.
Because
yes. High five.
I think that's what I know. Zoom 5, yes.
Done this before. Okay, all right. So, so let's do this. So let's do another call soon. Invite a couple of friends, and I will invite a couple of my friends. Let's have a brainstorm about voter registration and voter turnout, and how we turn this longing for community into just like an organizing force.
Yeah, I think we can do it.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I know, yay!
Oh my God, you've given me so much life already. Oh, my friend John is saying, yes, the most important thing we can do is organize and build a community. Zoom 5. Okay, that's my friend John Park, who's an amazing organizer in New York City. He's in Flushing. He works to organize the Korean community, especially on civic engagement and voting. He's one of my heroes. I love John. Yeah, so let's do that. I invite John to see if he wants to be part of this conversation, because he has certainly spent a lot of time thinking about voter turnout. His last name is Park, but we're not related. It's just a common Korean name.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. I was like, oh, wow. So I have a question for you. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask you. Asked me, how did I get this way? How did you get that way?
Oh, it's a long story. I mean, the short version of the story is that the Iraq War in 2003, and especially by 2004, I think awakened a lot of people, like people in my generation. We were so upset that we were lied to. We were so upset at how we were treating people in Iraq, Iraqi civilians, that like it turned me into a full-time activist, the Iraq War. Like I just wanted to stop the war. I wanted everything to change. And I thought after we do all that, then I can go back to filmmaking. Because I was working on like indie film projects about romantic comedies and things that seem much more fun. But yeah, now I am so immersed in this world, because I cannot imagine the future unless we see significant change. So that's why I can't stop thinking about anything else really besides organizing. Hey, John. So let's do this. I feel like we could talk for hours. Talk to your friends.
I know.
And anybody you want to invite to the next call, and then we'll just do a brainstorm, and we'll invite people to give us ideas as well, and let's see what we come up with, and then let's just do it.
It's a plan. Yes, I love it.
We'll go for it. Okay, good. All right, so I will talk to you again really soon. I will send you a message, and thanks again for joining me tonight. You just like made me so happy.
Aw, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Okay. And share this with your friends, okay?
Oh, yeah, sure thing. From the Facebook page, right?
Yeah, I send you a link, okay?
Okay.
Well, have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Tell your
Thank
dad I
you.
said hi. Okay.
I will.
And your
Bye.
friends, the ones I met. Okay. All right, thanks everybody. We're gonna do a brainstorm with Jordyn and her friends about how we can get young people to register to vote and volunteer for the election. So I hope you join me for that. I'm gonna invite some of my friends, including John Park, to join me in that brainstorm. So I will talk to you again soon. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good night.
You've been listening to Conversations About a Way Forward from Count Me In to Win and The Talk on Main Street. To learn more, find us on Facebook at The Talk on Main Street.